The morning of the wedding arrived quietly, but inside the old riverside house, everything felt heavy with emotion. Soft sunlight came through the tall windows, touching the wooden floors that had seen many secrets over the years. Lily stood in front of a large mirror in the bedroom upstairs, staring at her reflection. She looked calm on the outside, but inside her heart was beating fast. Today was the day her life would change forever. People often called her the little dove because she was gentle, kind, and never raised her voice, even when life was hard. She had grown up learning to stay silent, to stay safe, and to survive by being good. Now, as she wore a white wedding dress, she wondered if goodness was enough to protect her in the real world. The house itself was not an ordinary place for a wedding. It belonged to a man known as the Mafia boss, a powerful figure whose name was never spoken loudly. He was not family by blood, but he had once helped Lily's father when no one else would. Because of that old favor, this house had become a place of shelter for Lily's wedding. Outside, black cars stood quietly near the gate, their windows dark, their presence strong but silent. Inside, however, the atmosphere was full of nervous excitement, whispered prayers, and the soft sound of footsteps moving quickly from room to room. Grace, Lily's closest friend, was moving around the bedroom with energy and confidence. She had known Lily since their school days, back when dreams were simple and life felt lighter. Grace talked constantly, not because she wasn't nervous, but because she knew silence made Lily think too much. She adjusted Lily's veil, fixed her hair, and reminded her again and again that everything would be fine. Grace believed in facing life boldly, even when fear tried to stop her. She smiled, laughed, and teased Lily gently, hoping to pull her out of her thoughts and into the joy of the moment. Ava, Lily's cousin, was quieter than Grace but just as concerned. She carefully checked the wedding dress, smoothing the fabric with her hands. Ava had always been protective of Lily, especially after seeing how easily people tried to take advantage of her kindness. As Ava reached for the zipper at the back of the dress, she noticed it felt stiff. At first, she didn't worry. She pulled slowly, then a little harder. The zipper refused to move. Ava tried again, her fingers tightening with tension. The room suddenly felt smaller, the air heavier. Lily felt her chest tighten as well. She didn't turn around, but she could sense the problem. Her wedding was supposed to begin soon. Guests were already arriving downstairs. The thought of something going wrong made her hands tremble. She had spent her whole life trying not to be a burden, not to cause trouble. Even on her wedding day, she feared being the reason for delay or stress. Grace noticed the change in her face and quickly stepped in, telling Ava to stop pulling before the zipper broke completely. The three women stood there for a moment, frozen between panic and hope. This dress was not just fabric and thread. It represented Lily's future, her chance at a normal life far away from fear and hidden dangers. Outside the room, footsteps echoed in the hallway, and voices moved closer. The house felt alive, watching, waiting. Lily closed her eyes for a second and took a deep breath, reminding herself that she had come this far. Then there was a knock at the door. It wasn't loud or rude, just firm enough to be noticed. Grace opened it without much thought, expecting another helper or family member. Instead, a stranger stood there. He was well-dressed but simple, his expression calm and serious. There was something about him that made the room feel suddenly quiet. He didn't stare or ask questions. He simply said he was told someone needed help. Ava's first instinct was distrust. In a house owned by a mafia boss, strangers were never just strangers. But time was running out, and the problem was still there. Lily turned slowly, meeting the man's eyes. There was no fear in his gaze, only focus and respect. She nodded gently, giving permission without words. As the stranger stepped into the room, Lily felt a strange sense of fate, as if this small moment carried more meaning than she understood. The zipper was still stuck, but something else had entered the room too, a turning point that none of them could yet see, the stranger stepped fully into the room, and the door closed softly behind him, as if the house itself wanted privacy for what was about to happen. He did not rush or act nervous, even though 3 women were watching him closely. His calm felt unusual in a place where emotions were high and time was short. Lily stood very still, her back turned, her hands resting lightly on the front of her dress. She could hear her own breathing and feel her heart beating faster with every second. Trust did not come easily to her, yet something inside told her not to pull away. In real life, people often had to trust strangers for small things, never knowing how important those moments might become later. The man gently took the zipper between his fingers, not pulling right away. He examined it carefully, as if he had all the time in the world. Ava watched closely, ready to step in if anything went wrong, while Grace held her breath without realizing it. The stranger spoke softly, saying the zipper was not broken, only stuck because of stress and fear. His words sounded strange, but somehow comforting. He asked Lily to relax her shoulders, and though she did not fully understand why, she obeyed. As she slowly let go of her tension, he carefully moved the fabric and guided the zipper upward with steady patience. The sound of the zipper closing felt louder than it really was, like a signal that something had shifted. When it finally reached the top, the dress fit perfectly, as if it had always been meant to close at that exact moment. Relief filled the room, heavy and warm. Grace laughed softly, almost in disbelief, while Ava let out the breath she had been holding. Lily felt tears sting her eyes, not from fear anymore, but from gratitude. She turned slightly, whispering a thank you, her voice gentle and sincere. The stranger nodded once, his expression unchanged, but his eyes softened just a little. He did not wait for praise or questions. Instead, he stepped back, already preparing to leave, as if his role in this moment was finished. That alone made Lily curious, because people who helped usually wanted something in return, even if it was just attention. As the stranger opened the door, the hallway outside seemed darker and quieter than before. That was when the Mafia boss appeared, standing near the stairs like a shadow that had always been there. His presence was strong, not loud, but impossible to ignore. The room fell silent again. Grace and Ava both felt a chill run through them, not because he looked angry, but because his eyes held too much knowledge. He glanced at Lily for a brief second, his look gentle in a way few people ever saw, then turned his attention to the stranger. The Mafia boss leaned closer and whispered something so quietly that it did not even echo in the hallway. No one else could hear the words, but everyone could feel their weight. The stranger's face changed, just slightly, but enough to show that those words had touched something deep inside him. His jaw tightened, his eyes lowered, and he nodded once with respect. Without another glance at Lily or the others, he walked away down the hallway and disappeared from sight, his footsteps fading like a memory. Inside the room, no one spoke for several seconds. Lily felt a strange mix of emotions she could not name. Her dress was fixed, the problem solved, yet her heart felt unsettled, as if she had just stood at the edge of something much bigger than a wedding delay. Grace finally broke the silence by joking that the house was full of surprises, but her voice sounded forced. Ava looked thoughtful, her protective instincts telling her that this moment was not as simple as it seemed. Lily sat down slowly on the edge of the bed, her hands resting on her lap. She thought about how easily her life depended on small actions. A stuck zipper, a stranger's steady hands, a whisper in a hallway, these were not dramatic events, yet they carried quiet power. Real life was often like this, she realized. Big changes did not always arrive with noise or warning. Sometimes they came softly, dressed as ordinary moments. Outside, the sound of guests arriving grew louder, and the wedding preparations continued as if nothing unusual had happened. But inside Lily, something had changed. She felt protected in a way she had never felt before, not by walls or guards, but by unseen decisions made by others. She did not know what the Mafia boss had whispered, or why the stranger had listened so seriously, but she sensed that her safety had just been chosen over something darker. Grace helped Lily stand again, adjusting the veil and smiling brightly, determined to bring joy back into the room. Ava gave Lily's hand a gentle squeeze, silently promising she would always watch over her. Lily looked at herself in the mirror once more. The little dove stared back, still gentle, still kind, but now stronger in a quiet way. The morning had started with fear and uncertainty, but it was moving towards something steadier. As Lily took a deep breath and prepared to walk downstairs, she did not realize that the zipper fixed by a stranger and a whisper spoken by a powerful man had already begun shaping the path of her future. The wedding ceremony was over, the guests had eaten, laughed, and offered congratulations, yet Lily felt a strange restlessness that she could not shake. She moved quietly toward the balcony overlooking the river, needing a moment alone to breathe and process the morning's events. The sun was beginning to dip behind the distant hills, casting gold and pink reflections across the water. Everything looked peaceful, calm, and ordinary, but Lily knew life was rarely that simple. Even in moments of beauty, there were layers of unseen danger and protection, threads woven quietly into her world without her knowledge. Standing there, she touched the lace of her dress, feeling the smooth zipper at the back and remembering the stranger who had fixed it so effortlessly. His hands had been calm, steady, precise, and his presence had somehow carried a sense of authority and safety that words could not explain. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the river's slow rhythm calm her racing thoughts, but her mind refused to stop wandering. Questions crowded in: who had he been? Why had he helped her so calmly, so politely, without asking for anything in return? And why had the Mafia boss whispered to him so quietly, in a way that changed the man instantly? Lily had never seen anyone command respect with a single whisper before, yet she could feel its power even from a distance. She shivered slightly, not from the evening chill, but from the sudden awareness that someone had just intervened in her life in a way she barely understood, yet would never forget. The sound of slow, deliberate footsteps interrupted her thoughts. She turned and saw the Mafia boss standing a few steps behind her. His presence was solid, calm, and somehow comforting despite the usual fear his name carried. Lily had grown up hearing stories of him, of how he could be ruthless to enemies and loyal to those he considered family, but seeing him quietly watching the river reminded her that not all power was loud or violent. He had a way of standing in a room and controlling it without speaking, simply because people noticed him. Today, however, there was no need for force or fear. Today, his concern was gentle, almost fatherly. "You did well today," he said, his voice low and even. There was no hint of judgment, no pressure, just a calm acknowledgement of her courage. Lily felt a mixture of relief and confusion. "Thank you," she whispered. "For everything, for today." "And, who was that man?" Her voice trembled slightly, though she tried to keep it steady. She needed to understand, even if she could not fully process the danger or the protection that had quietly surrounded her. The Mafia boss glanced at the river for a long moment, his eyes reflecting the sunset. "A ghost from my past," he said softly, almost to himself. "I whispered to him that you are under my protection now. No one touches you, no one uses you, no one harms you." Lily blinked, startled. She had not asked for protection, had never considered that her life might need such intervention, yet she felt a strange gratitude growing inside her. The words were not dramatic, but they carried weight, the kind of weight that comes with experience and deep knowledge of the world. "Why would I need that?" Lily asked, her voice small. She had lived quietly, never making enemies, never seeking trouble. She had thought kindness and caution would be enough to keep her safe, but the morning had proven that danger could be subtle, arriving dressed as something ordinary, like a stuck zipper or a stranger at the door. The Mafia boss did not answer immediately. Instead, he leaned slightly on the railing, gazing at the water as if the river itself held the answer. "Because kindness attracts wolves," he finally said, turning his eyes toward her. "And you, little dove, are too kind for that world. People like you are always at risk, not because they are weak, but because they trust too easily. Today, that zipper, that stranger, that small moment, it was all part of a choice being made on your behalf. A choice you might never even know about, yet it changes everything. Lily absorbed his words slowly. They were heavy, but not frightening. They carried the weight of truth and a quiet promise that her life was being safeguarded, even if she did not see all the layers of protection around her. Grace and Ava appeared quietly on the balcony, noticing the serious tone of the conversation. Grace, always quick to sense tension, frowned slightly. "I heard something," she said softly, careful not to interrupt the delicate balance of words in the air. "That stranger, people say he used to work for dangerous groups. Is that true?" The Mafia boss nodded once, lightly, without elaborating. He did not need to. His nod alone told them everything. They were not just dealing with ordinary people. The world around them had layers of history, alliances, and quiet warnings that Lily had never known. Ava crossed her arms, a mixture of protectiveness and curiosity in her expression. "What did you say to him?" she asked. Her voice was gentle, but it carried the weight of wanting to know what had just happened. The Mafia boss turned slightly, looking at the river once more before answering. "I reminded him who he once wanted to be," he said, "and I warned him." Lily felt an unexpected shiver run through her. Even though she had been calm that morning, the truth was clear: her life had almost gone in a dangerous direction without her knowledge. That zipper, that stranger, that whisper, all of it had been far more than coincidence. "I don't understand," Lily admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Could it have been different?" The Mafia boss looked at her then, fully, his eyes steady. "Yes," he said simply. "But today, you chose love, honesty, and a simple life. That matters. Choices are not always in our hands, but courage, kindness, and wisdom always shape the path we walk. Today, you showed all three, whether you realized it or not." Grace gently squeezed Lily's hand, her eyes soft. "You're safe," she said. "That's what matters now." Lily nodded slowly, feeling the truth of it seep into her bones. She looked around at the people she trusted, the friends who had stood by her, the cousin who had always been protective, the powerful man who had quietly ensured her safety, and realized how real life could be both dangerous and beautiful at the same time. It was messy, layered, full of unseen choices, but it was real. As the last light of the sun reflected on the water, Lily allowed herself a deep breath. She felt lighter yet stronger, like she had passed through a hidden test without even knowing it. That morning, a zipper, a stranger, and a whisper had changed the course of her day, and perhaps her life, without her even realizing how fragile the balance of protection and danger had been. Life, she now understood, was not only about what you see, but also about what unseen hands and whispers choose for you. She touched the back of her dress lightly and smiled to herself, feeling the quiet certainty that she was now stepping into a safer, more careful future. The evening had grown quieter, though the house still hummed softly with life from the few lingering guests who had stayed to enjoy the view of the river under the fading sunset. Lily, Grace, and Ava had returned to the main room after the balcony, but the sense of something unresolved lingered in the air. Lily sat on the edge of the couch, her hands folded in her lap, staring at the polished wooden floor as if it might reveal the secrets of the morning. Grace and Ava stood nearby, sensing that Lily needed to speak but not wanting to rush her. There was a weight in the room, an invisible presence of past choices and hidden knowledge that seemed to press gently against their shoulders. The stranger who had fixed the zipper and the Mafia boss who had whispered to him were no longer physically present, yet their actions echoed in the room like soft thunder, quiet, subtle, and profoundly powerful. Grace finally broke the silence. "I can't stop thinking about that man," she said softly. "Who was he? People say he works, or used to work, for dangerous groups. How did he even get into the house, and why did he just help us and leave?" Her words, though spoken lightly, carried the tension that all three of them felt. Ava leaned against the wall, her eyes narrowed in thought, a protective instinct simmering beneath her calm exterior. "It's not just that," Ava added. "It's the way the Mafia boss spoke to him. Whatever he said, that man obeyed. Immediately. He didn't argue. He didn't try to explain himself. That doesn't happen with ordinary people. Something about that whisper, it changed everything. Lily listened silently, her mind racing with possibilities. Her life had always been guided by small, careful choices, but this morning, choices had been made for her, silently and invisibly. She realized she had been protected without even understanding how close she had come to danger. The Mafia boss reappeared quietly, as if he had been watching their discussion from the shadows. His presence immediately filled the room, strong but not threatening. He moved slowly toward them, his long coat brushing softly against the floor, and finally stood beside Lily. His eyes, calm and measured, settled on her with an intensity that made her feel both safe and exposed at the same time. "You have questions," he said, his voice steady, carrying the authority of someone who had seen far more than most people could imagine. Lily nodded, uncertain where to begin. "Yes. I mean, I know something happened this morning, but I don't understand it. Who was that man? Why did he help me? And what did you say to him?" The Mafia boss studied her quietly, his eyes reflecting the dim light of the room. "That man, he was once someone dangerous, yes, but he had the potential to choose differently. I reminded him of who he once wanted to be, who he could still be if he chose wisely. I also warned him that your life, your safety, is not to be compromised. When a choice like that is presented, it can change everything." He listened, because he remembered the person he could have been, and because I reminded him that crossing you would have consequences far beyond his control. Lily felt her stomach tighten. In the morning, the simple act of zipping a dress had seemed ordinary, even mundane. But now she realized that small act had been wrapped in layers of unseen power and history, an intersection of past decisions and present protection. The reality of it made her pulse quicken. Grace, still standing near the couch, glanced at Lily with wide eyes. "So, your whisper actually stopped him from doing something bad? And he just left after that?" The Mafia boss nodded once. "Yes. Many things in life happen quietly, and most people never see them. A single word, a single action, can redirect paths that might have ended in tragedy. You were protected today not by chance, but by decisions made long before you even realized they were needed." Ava crossed her arms, her brow furrowed, still trying to process the magnitude of the explanation. "So, what you're saying is, if that stranger hadn't come or hadn't listened to you, my cousin's life could have been in danger." The Mafia boss's eyes met hers, serious and unwavering. "Yes. It could have been. But that is why vigilance, loyalty, and careful intervention exist. Life does not always announce danger with loud alarms. Sometimes it hides in small, ordinary moments." Lily's mind swirled with the truth. Her entire morning, the nervous excitement of the wedding, the stuck zipper, the stranger, and the whispered words had all been part of a larger network of protection she had never imagined. Her heart beat faster as she realized that while she had been preparing for a joyful day, a hidden reality had been steering her path without her knowing. She looked down at her hands, folded neatly in her lap, and felt both fear and gratitude. Real life, she understood now, was not about waiting for danger to arrive, it was about the choices made in unseen corners, the quiet interventions, and the people who acted decisively without recognition. Grace stepped closer and rested her hand gently on Lily's shoulder. "You're safe now," she said softly. "That's what matters. You can focus on today, your wedding, your husband, nothing else has to ruin it." Ava nodded, still serious but relieved. "Yes. Let today be about love, not fear." Lily took a slow breath, trying to let the calm wash over her. She looked at the Mafia boss, who had returned to the shadows of the room, standing quietly yet undeniably present. His protection was real, tangible even without force, and it left a warmth in her chest that she had never felt before. The three of them sat in silence for a while, watching the sun finally disappear behind the river hills. The house was quiet now, filled only with the faint sounds of distant water and the occasional creak of the wooden floor. Lily realized that her life had already been touched by invisible hands, guiding her toward safety, toward love, and away from hidden danger. She felt a deep gratitude toward the Mafia boss, toward the stranger, and even toward the universe that had orchestrated these small, powerful acts. Today, she understood that safety, courage, and kindness were often woven together by decisions no one saw, yet their effects lasted forever. Finally, she stood, feeling stronger than she had that morning, ready to step fully into her new life. The truths revealed had not scared her, they had empowered her. She had seen the layers beneath ordinary moments, and she had discovered the quiet power of protection, loyalty, and whispered decisions. As she looked at Grace and Ava, she smiled, feeling a sense of unity and resilience. Real life was not simple, and it was not fair, but it was filled with people who made the unseen choices that allowed kindness to survive. That knowledge gave her wings. Today, she realized, the little dove could finally fly, even in a world that was not always safe. Lily touched the back of her dress, feeling the zipper once more, a simple yet profound reminder that small actions often carried the weight of life and safety. She was ready to embrace her wedding night, her new husband, and her future with courage, because she knew that even when danger existed, it could be met with quiet wisdom, unexpected help, and a whisper that changed everything. The night had settled over the riverside house like a soft blanket, the sky painted in deep shades of indigo and violet, with stars beginning to shine faintly above. Inside, the wedding guests had long since departed, leaving only the gentle hum of the river and the quiet creaks of the old house as companions. Lily and her new husband had slipped away from the remaining bustle to sit by the window, watching the water ripple in the moonlight. There was a sense of calm and peace that contrasted sharply with the nervous energy of the morning, yet beneath the surface, Lily felt the lingering echo of everything that had happened, the stuck zipper, the mysterious stranger, the whisper of the Mafia boss. Each memory reminded her that her life, though peaceful now, had once teetered on the edge of uncertainty, and that protection and care often arrived in ways no one expected. She leaned slightly against her husband, feeling the steady warmth of his presence. "I was scared today," she admitted quietly, her voice almost lost in the soft sound of the river. She was not ashamed of her fear, she had learned that acknowledging it made courage stronger. Her husband took her hand in his, fingers intertwined, and gave a small, reassuring squeeze. "So was I," he said. "But we're here. Together. And that's what matters." His words were simple, yet they carried a profound weight. They reminded her that life, with all its hidden dangers and unseen decisions, could also hold moments of clarity, love, and safety. She realized that happiness often came not from avoiding fear, but from acknowledging it, learning from it, and moving forward despite it. Outside, the house was quiet, but in the shadows, the Mafia boss watched from a distance, as he often did. His figure was still and composed, yet there was a sense of satisfaction in the way he observed the couple. His role had been fulfilled, his whisper had redirected a dangerous path, and a stranger who could have caused harm had been guided toward the right choice. The world outside the house was unpredictable, filled with unseen risks and challenges, but for now, Lily was safe, and the little dove had taken her first steps into a life that was hers to shape. There was no need for grand gestures or dramatic displays. Protection, courage, and wisdom often worked quietly, behind the scenes, shaping lives without recognition or praise. Lily thought about the morning, about how fragile and interconnected life could be. A simple zipper had become the starting point for a chain of events that revealed hidden truths and unseen dangers. The stranger, who appeared so ordinary at first, had been part of a larger story she could barely comprehend. He had helped her with skill, care, and discretion, yet had vanished before she could understand his motives. The Mafia boss's whisper had redirected his path, reminding him of the choices he once valued, and in doing so, had ensured Lily's safety. These small, unseen forces had shaped the day, and Lily realized that life often operated in these quiet, invisible ways. Moments of danger and protection existed side by side, and courage often came in ordinary forms, a steady hand, a whispered word, a choice made quietly in the shadows. Her husband spoke again, breaking her thoughts. "You've been through a lot today," he said softly, "even if it doesn't feel like it now. But look at where you are. The sun has set, the night is calm, and we're together. That's the start of something new." Lily smiled, realizing that he was right. Life had a way of balancing fear and hope, danger and safety, challenge and love. The morning's events, though tense and mysterious, had led to this very moment, a peaceful beginning framed by trust, connection, and resilience. She thought about Grace and Ava, who had stood by her side all day, and she felt deep gratitude. Their presence had been steady, their care unwavering, and their loyalty had reinforced the invisible protection that had surrounded her. As they watched the river, Lily reflected on the lessons of the day. Real life was unpredictable, full of moments that could change everything in an instant. Yet, even in its uncertainty, there was the possibility of support, guidance, and safety from people who acted without expectation of recognition. Courage did not always roar, sometimes it whispered, or acted quietly, or appeared in a stranger's calm hands at the right moment. Trust, too, could be found in the most unexpected places, and protection could arrive from those who understood the stakes of the unseen world. Today had shown her that life was not only about what she controlled, but also about the small, careful interventions of others, decisions that could redirect danger, preserve innocence, and allow kindness to flourish. Night deepened, and the couple finally stood to move toward the quiet rooms upstairs. Each step felt lighter than it had that morning, carrying with it a sense of empowerment and understanding. Lily touched the back of her dress lightly, remembering the zipper and the stranger who had closed it so effortlessly. That simple act had become a symbol of her journey, from nervous anticipation to safe completion, from vulnerability to confidence. She realized that the little dove had grown wings, not through power, luck, or strength alone, but through the careful protection and unseen choices that had surrounded her. As she lay down beside her husband that night, the house silent except for the soft rush of the river, Lily felt a deep, calming certainty. Life would always hold risks, challenges, and unforeseen dangers, but she now understood that courage, loyalty, kindness, and careful guidance could shape outcomes in ways that were invisible yet powerful. She felt gratitude for the Mafia boss, for the stranger, for her friends, and for the quiet forces that had guided her safely through the morning's trials. The little dove had learned that life was not about avoiding fear entirely, but about embracing hope and trust while moving forward. By the time she closed her eyes, Lily had made peace with the day. She knew she had stepped into a new beginning, a life intertwined with love, support, and the unseen hands that guided her path. Her heart was calm, her mind clear, and for the first time, she felt truly ready to embrace the future. Outside, the river flowed endlessly, carrying reflections of stars, moonlight, and the quiet lessons of the day. Lily smiled softly, knowing that she had survived the morning, conquered fear, and discovered that true strength often comes in whispers, small actions, and the careful choices of those who care. Tonight, the little dove was free, not just in body, but in spirit, ready to fly toward a life shaped by love, courage, and the subtle power of unseen protection.